Brodes Media.
Howie Roseman never stops adding to this team. Howie Roseman never stops picking up the phone. Howie Roseman is always dialed in to putting better talent around his quarterback. And that's a beautiful thing. Jahan Dotson, welcome aboard. Welcome to Philly. I have to admit, though, the first second I saw the report that the trade was going down, I wondered, why? Why would Washington move him? What am I missing? Is there something that's brutally wrong with the player? Or is this the Commanders making a mistake? Or is this the Commanders getting a fresh new sense of life and they're trying to cut bait with players that maybe they deem not their standard? I'm not sure. Cameron Wolf of NFL Network, though, said that he's been having a very shaky camp, and Dan Quinn listed Zacchaeus over him on the depth chart. Now, they could be making a brutal mistake. Maybe their depth chart is completely off. Or there's reality to the drop rate problems. There's a reality with the confidence issues. And even if that is the case, I still think it's a decent calculated risk by Howie. If it doesn't work, I know there were some other moving parts involved, but essentially they gave up a third, which is okay value. It's not nothing. Nakobe Dean might be one of your best linebackers this season, right? Third-round draft pick. Jalix Hunt might be something really impressive. Third-round draft pick. So it's not as if the third-round draft pick is nothing, but if you project him getting back on track, with the other team's defense clearly focusing more on A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts himself, and then Jahan Dotson, that's a totally different role from what he was accustomed to with Washington. And remember, he was dealing with Washington when they were through the Dan Snyder era, so I'd have to imagine that the morale wasn't very positive. So sometimes a change of scenery can do wonders. But what I'm not going to do is just pretend that this is automatically a home run. I do like the swing. This is Howie Roseman being in the batter's box and taking a fat hack. I like it. Young, but still a couple years under his belt. Financially, nothing that's going to annihilate you or crush you. High upside. And they desperately needed to look at that third wide receiver spot and make an addition. Because they had names that can maybe hold the fort down. Paris Campbell, Johnny Wilson, Britton Covey apparently has made some noise in camp. Who else is out there? John Ross. Now, some of these names were dealing with concussion protocol stuff. But those names could have been okay. This, though, the upside of Dotson is way higher than any of those names. There's versatility, inside and outside. And if there is someone that goes down for a few weeks, if they're nursing an ankle injury or somebody has a hamstring problem, and I'm talking about the ones above him on the depth chart, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, he brings a skill set that, in a pinch, I think you can work with. And not only if they get banged up, but if you're looking for matchups and you want to line A.J. Brown up in an interesting spot to see if he can eat another defender alive, or if you look at Devontae Smith as someone you want to target and you go, yo, dude, look what we can do if we can mix some things around and Kellen Moore can dip into his bag of creativity. Because you can work with Dotson inside and out, it can now line other receivers up differently where you can go to work. So I like it. In theory, I think there's a lot you can do with design here. But it all comes down to, is he going to have the confidence? Does he have the swag? Or is it similar to Quez Watkins, where he's in his own head? He could be wide open because everyone's focused on the other top-tier weapons on your roster, and it hits him in the hands, it hits him in the helmet, and we got a problem with the drop rate. Is this Nelson Aguilar, where some days it's flashy and some days he shows signs of what he can be? But then there's a wide open pass over the middle of the field. And let's say Dotson's running in the slot and he's got 50 yards of wide open space in front of him. And he doesn't secure the pass and he drops it. He puts his head down as he's walking back to the huddle. Because I do believe that that's going to be a part of this. I hope I'm wrong, though. I hope he's so inspired to play for a team that actually has a purpose, to play for a team that's dialed in to go win a championship, and he's out of that dumpster fire organization. Being around winners can absolutely make you change your mentality with it. There's also added pressure, though. You better perform. And if he was dealing with something upstairs in his brain where he wasn't feeling 1,000% and he was doubting himself, when there's 60,000 people breathing down your neck at the link and we are screaming at the top of our lungs expecting you to make the plays that you got to make. And look, I've seen some highlights of him being able to make some tough catches, right? So it's not impossible. But realistically, you know what the job is? The job is to make the catches that you need to make. The simple catches, the routine catches, the fundamental catches. You know, look, there's probably going to be some scenarios where it's a tough catch that I look back at and say, he probably should have made it, but I get it. He's a third wide receiver who's being traded and sold for not that crazy of a draft pick for a reason. You know what I'm saying? He's not going to be perfect by any means. But if you're wide open and the other guys are covered and Jalen looks your way and you have a DB on you that can't sniff you, make the damn catch. So I'm cautiously optimistic. And another part of this, too, is how many times have I looked at a team on paper and think to myself, they're special, they're crazy good. If it all works out, how many times does it work out the way that I want it to? Not as much as I would like to admit. So what else here? The drop rate, the confidence issue. I understand why the instant thoughts were highway robbery. And it's funny, Wale is getting all pissed off on Twitter, and he's tweeting about it. I follow a couple of people who are in the music industry that are Washington Commanders fans, and they're like, please, come on, you're telling me we send off someone that we still have high hopes to turn it around. And not only that, you're shipping him to the Eagles, to an NFC East division rival. They're looking for a fresh new regime of smart decision-making, and now they're wondering, what do we have here in Joshua Harris? And I know we laugh at that, knowing that they own the Sixers, and we're in a tough spot with them. But remember, Dan Snyder, significantly worse than Joshua Harris and David Blitzer. It's not even close. It's not even close. I like the calculated risk. A lot of what we've seen in Washington, I don't want to say it's irrelevant. Numbers, receptions, touchdowns. It's not irrelevant because it shows you what he's capable of doing. But the role that he'd be in here, it's not the same level of intensity. And you're not getting matched up with the same level of cornerbacks. And the defense, I promise you, when the defense is game planning all week long and they're studying the film and they're watching the tape and they're trying to get into the tendencies of what Kellen Moore and the Philadelphia Eagles like to do, his name may never even pop up. Now it will, but what, sixth? After they spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 sessions on AJ, Devontae, and Barkley? Right? I'm sure this is what they'll say. Don't fall asleep. Whatever you do not pretend he can't beat you. All right, let's get back to what AJ does. And that's it. You gloss over it. So if there is an opportunity when they all start snoozing on Dotson, because they're aware that you could put the ball in AJ's hands rather quickly and he could work with space yards after the catch. Or Devontae tippy-toeing his way down the sidelines. Where's Dotson? Holy shit! He's 15 yards past me! He's putting his hands up and Jalen drops a dime.